Good morning, class. Let's begin our history lesson. So, before I begin with the class, I would like to conduct a very short experiment and I want you all to observe this really carefully, okay? And I will ask you a few questions so you have to answer quickly. Alright, I have this balloon, right? Now I am going to do something with it. So guys, I want you to tell me, why did the balloon burst? And all of these are correct answers. So students, just how this balloon burst with a loud sound due to pressure and force from all sides by a single person, similarly Indians during and before 1857 faced tremendous pressure and force from the British government, which led to an outbreak. Today, therefore, students, we will study about the struggle of Indians when the exploitation of British was like the pressure on the balloon in the chapter The Freedom Struggle of 1857, and focus on only two causes of this outbreak, the economic cause and the social cause. So students, as we have studied in the earlier chapters about how the British held their dominance in Indian political, cultural, economic and social life, the British introduced a lot of acts, alliances and treaties which left Indian states at the benevolence of the British. Let's have a short quiz and understand how well do you remember what was taught in your previous classes. Who became bankrupt during the British rule? Yes, you're right, the farmers. Second question, a dash struck Bengal in the year 1770. Yes, a famine struck Bengal. The third and the last question, the peasants of Bengal participated in the rebellion led by? Correct, Sannyasi Fakir. Here's a timeline which shows how the rebellion took place over the entire country from the year 1763 to 1857. Why do you think there was this sort of rebellion throughout the country? Yes, because the British were indifferent towards the plight of these farmers. So children, tell me, what kind of political system does India follow today? Yes, it is the democratic system. What happens in a democratic system? Whatever happens at the center affects the state. For example, when we were under the lockdown, Indian farmers were exempted from paying taxes and the government even funded the villagers by depositing money in their bank accounts. So we know the benefits of having a democratic nation. But do you know what kind of system was followed even before British came to India? Who ruled India? You're right, Mughals ruled India, and the then India of 17th century was divided into several kingdoms, and therefore there was no center or one governing body. So the village system remained unaffected. But the British tried to change this system and set up a new system which the villagers found to be very, very exploitative. Even today, we see farmers protesting against the new farm laws and their protest is being heard. The government is ready to have a word with these farmers who feel unstable. But in 1857, when the British introduced new systems like the revenue system, which directly affected the villagers, the farmers' plight was never understood, and therefore the farmers always felt dissatisfied and unstable.
यही कुछ पैसे बचे, ये भी देना पड़ेगा अब लगान में। बोलते हैं टैक्स दो, टैक्स दो।
In this diagram, you will notice that the peasant come in the lowest part of the pyramid, which means they were the most exploited ones. And on the top was the East India Company. Alright students, let's watch a scene from the movie Lagan and understand the state of the farmers of India during the British times.
महाराज की जय। अब बताओ मुखिया जी, क्या बात है?
महाराज जी, आप तो जानते ही हैं, आज तक भी बरखा नहीं हुई है और हमारे पास जो कुछ है उसमें इस साल गुजर बसर हुई जाए वही बहुत है महाराज। सो अन्नदाता, हम आपके पास पहले ही करने आए हैं कि आप इस साल का पूरा लगान माफ कर दें माई बाप।
देखो मुखिया जी, हम समझ सकते हैं कि आप लोगों पर क्या बीत रही है, लेकिन हमारे हाथ भी बंधे हैं। गोरी चमड़ी वाले अपने बाप के सगे नहीं होते। दुगना लगान तो आप लोगों को देना ही पड़ेगा।
कोई प्रॉब्लम योर हाइनेस?
कैप्टन रसल, ये किसान एक अर्जी लेकर आए हैं।
वो क्या?
ये चाहते हैं कि हम इस साल का लगान माफ कर दें, पर हमने बता दिया है कि ये नामुमकिन है।
So if you would have watched the scene very carefully, you would have noticed that the farmers sat on the ground while the British stood with pride in front of them. And the farmers looked like they were seeking benevolence from the British, right? What does this depict? Yes, this depicts the class and race divide and how the British treated poor Indians in the most inhuman manner. Since we are speaking of farmers, why do you think the British suddenly shifted their focus from trading centers like Mumbai and Kolkata to villages in India? Remember, Britain had undergone industrial revolution. They manufactured goods at a very low cost, at a very high speed. For manufacturing these goods, they needed raw material, which was abundant in India. Why do you think raw material was abundant in India? It is because we are an agro-based economy. The British knew to take advantage of this richness and thus shifted their focus to village and agriculture and began exploiting farmers in order to collect raw material in huge quantities. Alright students, now I want you to look at these images carefully. These are roads, bridges, schools and hospitals. Who builds these roads and bridges? Yes, you're right, the government. And how does the government get the money to build all of this? Through taxes. Very good. But who pays these taxes? It is none other than the citizens of India who pay taxes. That is one of the duties and responsibilities of a good citizen, right? Why do we pay taxes? We pay taxes for the welfare of our own vicinity, of ourselves and the country at large. But was it the same in case of the British system? No. They imposed a revenue system on the farmers to forcibly extract taxes from them in order to increase the British government's income, which would benefit only the British. This forceful extraction of money made the farmers extremely poor and vulnerable. Okay students, tell me what is meant by import. Yes, buying goods from a foreign country. And what is export? It is selling goods to a foreign country. So the British only wanted to gain profit and therefore they imposed heavy taxes on the goods that were exported from India and imposed little taxes on finished goods that were imported from Britain. So the British paid very little money and the Indians had to pay heavy taxes to export their raw material.
हाथों के काम में मेहनत तो होगी ना, वो बना लाते हैं मशीनों से और सस्ते में बेच देते हैं। हम महंगा बेचते तो कोई नहीं खरीदता, वक्त लगता है कि नहीं बनाने में। हमारे पास ना तो हमारी ज़मीन बची है, ना तो हमारे पास पैसे हैं। हम 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 ज़मींदारी चुकाए तो कैसे चुकाए, लगान कैसे दे उन्हें। हम बेरोज़गार हो गए हैं।
All of this caused the textile and handicraft industries to shut down. And what would happen if these industries were shut down? What would happen to the workers? Yes, all of this gave rise to unemployment. Okay, children, so now we bring a balloon back into the picture and recollect the number of atrocities that the farmers were facing. All right, so the one we learnt recently is unemployment. The other one is revenue system. Can you tell me some other atrocity faced by the Indian farmers during the British times? Yes, their industries were shut. Any other thing that you can recollect? Correct. So they paid really heavy taxes. So you see, the balloon is almost covered and there is yet to come. All of this led to the dissatisfaction among the peasants and farmers of India during 1857. The next cause of the freedom struggle that we will look into is the social cause. Alright, students, what does a society comprise of? Yes, you're right, people. And which are some of the festivals we celebrate? It is Eid, it is Diwali, then we also celebrate Holi. Yes, so students, we are a very diverse country with very diverse backgrounds, customs and traditions, and we hold these customs really close to our heart, right? But what do we notice in this article? I want you to read it. After Lucknow, FIR registered in Noida against makers, actors of Tandav for hurting religious sentiments. So even in 21st century, what do we notice? That religion plays a very important role in this country, and it does hurt people's sentiments when something is spoken against it, right? It says, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So it holds great values of secularism and equality, right? As a student of Standard 8, how will you promote peace and unity among all Indians of different religions, communities? Yes, you can celebrate Republic Day with an idea of making our society, our school, our country proud. You can promote being Indian first and then speak of different religions, right? I want you to name some of the evil practices that were prevalent in India in the 17th century. You have studied this in your previous chapters. Yes, sati, child marriage, and also no widow remarriage, right? Alright, students, so I want you to quickly calculate how many years back is 1857 from today, that is from 2021. Yes, it is almost 200 years back, right? So you have to understand, really understand, children, that if religion and culture is so important even today, that is in the 21st century, how important would it have been 200 years back, right? So these were some of the customs and traditions which were ingrained in the minds of Indians because they are a part of religious scriptures, and child marriage was a means to bring about communities together, right? And keep them close. In those times, if anyone touched these traditions, Indians of those times would be really hurt, their sentiments would be hurt, right? So this is exactly what happened when the British abolished the social or cultural practices of sati, allowing widow remarriage, even though this is something to note here, even though these are correct moves made by the British government, it was not liked by the people of those times because it was a part of culture. These are really correct moves from a social perspective, but it is very obvious that the Indians during that time of 1857 and before would not like such kind of interference with their faith and the belief system, especially in a rural context, right? Also, one thing to really understand over here is that such evil practices are now abolished by our own government. But why do we not have a problem with it? It is because it is our own government, it is our own people. But in those times when a foreign body, when an intruder came to us and tried to remove our social customs and traditions, of course we would not like it, right? So this is why the villagers of those times felt really exploited and they wanted to rebel against these foreign rulers, that is the British. Now let's see how many social causes do you remember which led to the outbreak. Alright, one of them I will say was ill treatment of the farmers. Second one would be disrespect. Third one I would like you to recollect. Yes, abolition of cultural practices. Now we have very little space left over here, and the last cause is none other than social interference. So we notice, children, that the entire balloon is full of the ways in which the British exploited Indians, and naturally the balloon would burst, leading to the outbreak or the freedom struggle of 1857. In today's class, we studied about the problems of farmers and the oppression of British government during 1857 and also the economic and social cause that led to the struggle of 1857. Now I will leave this slide on for a few minutes so that you can look at it, and then I will ask you a few questions, alright? Okay, students, which state was struck by a famine? Second question is, why did the farmers feel unstable after the imposition of taxes? Explain any one economic cause that affected the lives of the farmers. And the fourth question is, what are the social causes that led to the unrest against the British? I'll give you a few minutes to answer these questions. I have sent you a Google form. Quickly fill in the answers and send it back to me. Alright, very good, children. So the first answer is correct, Bengal. The famine was struck in Bengal. Second answer, why did the farmers feel unstable, is because after taxes were imposed, the agricultural system in India completely collapsed. So this made the Indian farmers feel unstable. Third question, explain one of the economic causes that affected the lives of the farmers. The British introduced a new revenue system to increase their income, and they forcibly extracted these taxes, right? So this affected the lives of the farmers. The fourth and the last question, what are the social causes that led to the unrest, are the interference of the British in their religion, traditions and customs. Sati prohibition, widow remarriage, all of this was seen as interference in the lifestyle of the Indians. So before we end the lesson, there's an assignment for you, and that is to make a flowchart of the background of 1857 and the causes of freedom struggle of 1857. Alright? Thank you.